Well, now to part one of a three-part series we'd hoped to bring you last night, but couldn't due to a problem with transmission. An investigation by ITV News Central has found that arts funding has been cut by 60% of councils here in the Midlands over the last 3 years. Freedom of information requests to every local authority have revealed more than half of council-funded museums, galleries and theatres have lost out. Many say they've had to drastically cut what they can offer to the public, with some closing down.
Councils say they've had no choice but to cut the arts when they're under pressure to provide other services, essential services. Here's Chris Halpin with Culture Shock, the future of our arts.
For world-class culture, you needn't look or listen far. Be it classical composers from Worcester or world-famous playwrights from Warwickshire.
Lord, put your discourse into some frame.
But behind the pageantry of our past lurk uncertain times for our cultural future. In Freedom of Information requests to every local authority, 60% which funded cultural institutions told us they've reduced arts funding in the last 3 years. The same proportion of museums, galleries, theatres and arts organisations losing funding, with some having council cash cut altogether. 3 institutions in our region have closed down for good. Like the Public in West Bromwich. It opened in 2008 at a cost of £72 million, £15 million over budget. A visitor attraction full of promise to celebrate our digital future, it became a shining example of how not to spend money. And in 2013, the Public closed its doors to the public. The council at the time saying the only long-term option for the huge building was as a sixth form college.
The level of funding that this place required was £1.5 million a year. It came down to choices in the end between whether we needed to sustain our provision for elderly adults or whether we had to bite the bullet and try and find another way to get another future for this site.
But at the time, many felt the move to close the Public was more a political decision than a financial one. 60 people here lost their jobs, many of whom felt they'd made this place a success. One worker telling me that West Bromwich had lost a much valued arts centre. But how much do people here now actually miss it?
For West Bromwich, I think it's better off to keep it as an educational centre. It's much better.
It didn't have much use as it was. It was a waste of money.
Well, I'm gutted because it should have stopped at the Art Gallery. I miss it now because it's hard, because you've got to find somewhere else to go now to meet people.
Far from escaping the Public, the People's Orchestra Sandwell were made homeless when it closed. The council did help them, however, keep making music in West Bromwich Town Hall, but the move has caused some setbacks.
The Public was a purpose-built building for attracting people to come and see arts and culture, and it had all the facilities there to do that. So coming to a building like this, which looks very closed, very quiet, we're having to start again really to try and get to people to say, look, there's fantastic arts and culture here happening, still in Sandwell, still really close, come and see it.
Even though they don't receive funding, the amateur orchestra and the council have a harmonious relationship, getting advice on how to fine-tune funding, and the orchestra helping unemployed volunteers get back into work.
For everybody involved, there's a real sense of accountability that it enriches people's lives to work hard at something to make a performance, to tell a story to your audience.
In Birmingham, the famous Royal Ballet, Repertory Theatre, CBSO and Museum and Art Gallery have all seen funding cut in recent years. And the City Council says it'll keep putting pressure on government to protect our region's cultural capital.
But we are working very closely with the cultural sector, with business and with higher education to come up with a solution to this, and we are lobbying government hard. If we don't do something radical to create additional investment into arts and culture, then the budget cuts imposed by the government are going to make it a very, very difficult environment in the future.
Helping the show go on for places like the Birmingham Royal Ballet is the Arts Council. But even though it spent £99 million in our region last year, it warns more organisations could disappear.
If we think it's just local authorities that should foot that bill, if we think it's just the Arts Council that should foot that bill, then I do think we could be seeing casualties in the future. And even if local authority cuts reduce, while that's tough, I think if we work together, there are solutions that we can find.
Solutions which for some cultural institutions have come much too late, and as funding pressure continues, it could be curtains for more venues like the Public in years to come. Chris Halpin, ITV News, West Bromwich.
And tomorrow we'll have part 2 of our series on tomorrow night's programme at 6 o'clock, all about the arts. We'll be seeing how arts and cultural institutions are joining forces with business in order to survive and maintain the Midlands as a world-class destination for the arts, in a sector which employs 55,000 people in Birmingham and Solihull alone.
And now